Nobody's born incredible. People who do incredible things simply took the right steps. This is our journey. This is the hunt for incredible. All right, on this episode, we have a very special guest, my man Matt Floyd. Matt is a good friend of mine. We met, like 7 months ago?
Thanksgiving to Christmas?
Yeah. Matt owns 9 short-term rentals across 4 states, and he has a property management company that dips into short-term rentals, and they have 30 properties under their portfolio. So super stoked to chat with you about it.
Dude, excited to be here, man. It's been fun getting to know you guys since we first met, and I feel like we hit it off right away.
Hell yeah.
Fellow nomads, right? Traveling
Yeah,
the world.
yeah, there you go, for sure. We could even dive into that in the show.
Sure.
So Matt, share a bit about your journey in terms of where you started and how you ended up where you are.
Yeah, man, sounds good. I'm from the Midwest, so like a small town of 5,000 I grew up in, and then we moved to a town of 300. So like as rural as it can get, right along the Mississippi River. You appreciate it when you move away and all these different places that I've lived. But grew up there. My family's still there. Went to college there. Studied abroad in Spain my junior year, and that's where I met my now wife, Kim, when we were 20 years old and having fun and, studying abroad. So that was the start of my nomadic lifestyle, if you want to look at it that way. And so from there, I kind of had the travel bug, and I graduated, I moved out to Boston to be closer to her, lived there for 3 years. We quit our jobs. I was in software sales, and then we moved to the Caribbean for a year. We lived in St. Martin, and so we were just beach bums for a year, making no money at all, and just like
that's
surviving
awesome.
and loving life and dealing with the ups and downs of living in a foreign country. But it was such a cool experience. And then we got hit by a hurricane, the strongest hurricane in the history of the Atlantic Ocean. And then and then we decided, now where do we want to go after we got removed from the evacuated. So we decided San Diego, and we've been here for 6 years. So it's been a fun journey. Life is a fun journey. It's we're taking each stage as it comes, and we just started the new phase with a little baby girl like 6 weeks ago. So I'm running on 6 hours of sleep, and I feel like I'm doing pretty good.
Nice. 6 hours. That's pretty solid for
Yeah.
when was she born?
6 weeks ago.
6 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean 6 hours after 6 weeks. That's
Hey,
pretty solid.
I feel like fully refreshed with
Yeah,
6
yeah.
hours these days.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. So that's been the journey there, and I started in real estate, which I knew we wanted to jump into in 2018 was when I bought the first property. So 5 years ago, and it was a fourplex in Wisconsin with my mom, 50-50 partners, and we bought a fourplex for $55,000. So I don't even think you can get that in Wisconsin today. It was like I underwrote a lot of deals. I was really big into Bigger Pockets, listening to the podcast. And even that deal I was nervous about at the time. It was my first loan, first due diligence process. But I got to cut my teeth on a deal where if I messed it up, it wasn't going to bankrupt me. It wasn't going to be a major financial situation. So I try to give that advice to people all the time when they're getting started. Maybe try to start in an area where it's not quite as expensive as Southern California where we're at now.
What would you say that property is worth now?
Probably about 150, I would say. So new roof. I mean, there's expenses on it that that kind of take away from the profitability of it. But every month it probably profits like $1,000 profit a month.
Dude, I love that.
And I only put 7,000 in to buy it. So
you put 7,000 in, and it's already appreciated by $100,000.
Yeah. So in hindsight, great deal. We did a cash out. We renovated the 4 units. We got a new roof on. So we did the capital expenses. We didn't see any cash out of it for a couple of years, but now we did a cash out refi, and we have a nice, healthy bank account that we can go do another investment with. So multifamily is a great asset class. Even though I do more vacation rentals, I still love multifamily, and it's a very steady investment.
Yeah, I love that. So then you ended up managing that property yourself and then scaling up your property management company while buying more real estate? Is that what it was?
No, I actually hired a property manager right off the bat.
Oh, okay.
That was in Wisconsin. I'm out here in California. My mom is local there. She's still my partner to this day. And I didn't want her, she just retired. I didn't want her to be getting another job.
Right.
So I said, let's build into the underwriting the management cost. Let's make sure that it can pay for itself with management. And so that fourplex, and then the next year we bought a 7-unit, a first commercial property for 165. So 7 units for 165, another crazy deal to a lot of people out here. So we have 11 units there. 10 of those are long-term, managed by a local property manager. And then one of them is a vacation rental that we converted into it, and we managed that one.
Nice.
So those are the first two, 2018, 2019, those two deals.
Wow, so you're moving pretty quickly. So within the last 6 years, already scaled up to 30 properties that you manage.
Yes, yeah. So we let's see. So that was 2018, 2019. We took a year off in 2020. I think everyone kind of had a year off in 2020. I focused on my W-2, which I think is super important as well. I built the W-2 and I focused to be really good at the W-2 job with the knowledge that I was going to be out and that I wanted to work my way out of the W-2. So by having that light at the end of the tunnel, I was able to work really hard and efficiently and had a lot of motivation to do well in my software sales job. And I took all of that vast majority of my income and my commissions and put that into real estate. So I did well in 2020. 2021, we bought 4 properties, 2 in Nashville, 3 in Nashville, and 1 in San Diego. And that was the big push into vacation rentals.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So for those who are listening and they have a W-2 and they want to make that leap, what would you say is important to have in place before actually making that leap?
I think you just have to live below your means, right? I think that's the biggest thing, that if you get a promotion or if you get a commission or if you get something extra, don't increase your lifestyle accordingly. So we probably saved 50% of our income and put it into investments, right? And that's how we were able to move so quickly. We had a roommate, right? So our living expense, it was me, my wife, and her best friend. So me with 2 girls, and it was really fun to do that. And we split the expense of rent 3 ways. So we didn't get our own place at that time. We were still being frugal with our biggest expenses. We didn't get a new car. I still have a 2005 Lexus, that has 150,000 miles on it. So that car is totally paid off. So we tried to keep our expenses as low as we could, live below our means, and then take whatever you can and go and invest it. And slowly we started to see that the income coming from these investments started to catch up with a basic salary. I wouldn't say it was going to catch up with my W-2 salary where I was at, and I had worked really hard to get there. But I knew that if I could get $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month in cash flow, that would cover my expenses and give me the freedom that I'm looking for, right? So I think identifying what your expenses look like and what number it would take to break even, that's your first financial freedom point that you're aiming for, right? I just want to break even. Once you break even, then you can quit and then go and be creative because you don't have to stress about how you're going to pay the bills.
Yeah.
So
what role did the property management arm play in all of that? Did the property management arm end up subsidizing your income before your investments, or was it the other way around?
Yeah, that's a good question. We started the property management business because we started buying our own rentals, and we were managing them ourselves. My partner, Craig, and I, who you know as well, he's the one who got me into the whole thing. He taught me the ropes. So that's another partnership that's been really fruitful along the way. And he encouraged me to buy these properties, but he bought his separately. I bought mine separately. But we came together to start an arbitrage business here in San Diego, where we wanted to rent properties and then re-rent them as vacation rentals with the permission of the owner. Everything was, above board, of course. And we've had those properties for 4 years now, some of them. So we started that business in order to manage our own properties better and start to grow the management side of the business. And very organically, we started getting leads from colleagues who wanted to jump in, friends who wanted to jump in. And, they were like, hey, can you manage it? I've got the money. You guys have the design expertise and you can set it up. Can you manage it for me and we'll pay you? So we said, sure, of course, we'll take that on. And so that's how the management side grew from there.
That's awesome. What roles did you begin outsourcing first as you started to scale up? Because 30 properties is quite a bit. Yeah.
Operations, for sure. I mean, before we did everything ourselves for the first 3 years. There was no automations. There was no automated messages. There was nothing, automated calendars. There was no integrations. That stuff didn't exist even 5 years ago or 4 years ago when we started. So it's funny to think back on. Craig took most of the load on that side of things because my W-2 was really intense and his wasn't at the time. So it was good to have a partner for that reason. But we basically said, if we want to leave the W-2, then we need to make sure that we're not quitting the W-2 and then basically creating a new job for ourselves. So what does that mean? That means we need to hire a staff that's going to handle the day-to-day operations so that we can focus on sales and marketing and culture and vision and and commercial acquisitions, things like that we need to focus on being on the business, not in the business.
Yeah.
So it took us a year to build that structure before we quit the jobs. And that was all new software stack, all new automations, and hiring a team of 5, all in 1 year.
So when you say operations, is that including guest engagement, messaging them, and making sure that the locks are all set up properly, and price management, like that entire bundle?
Yeah, everything. Guest communication, all maintenance, cleaning automations. So there's a certain amount you can automate, and then outside of that, you still have specific things that need to be addressed by a human. So that's where our team comes in and kind of fills in the gaps. But the automation side with the guests and with the properties, we're talking pest control, landscaping, trash removal, maintenance stuff that comes up, changing the filters. There's so much that needs to be done to keep a property in good condition outside of keeping guests happy and having a good experience. So it's 2 sides of our business that are both very active and have different levels of automation to them.
Yeah. At what scale does it make sense to bring on a person to support those operations?
I now that we've done it, it's been such a game changer for us. I encourage anyone who has a business to go that route, to try it out. Our team is VAs. They're in the Philippines. Airbnb has a huge footprint in the Philippines. So there's a lot of expertise there. The English is very strong. Their customer service is great. They're really grateful to work with us, and we're grateful to have them. So it's just a really good culture. And we have a team lead. She coordinates all the schedules. She hires, she trains. And then we have the rest of the team underneath her. So I encourage people to say, hey, even if you are not sure exactly what they're going to do, if you're overworked or if you're overly busy, hire somebody and then find things for them to do. And pretty quickly, they'll find a niche where your life gets so much easier. We started not really sure what we were going to do, and now they're doing our accounts payable, they're doing guest communication, they're communicating directly with our owners, all these things that we didn't expect them to be able to do from the start.
Yeah.
So it's been great.
Dude, it also develops a skill, which is to manage people, make sure that they're operating well.
Yeah.
Because as you develop and you scale a business, you need to be able to step into different types of leadership and types of work. So the lower level, you're doing all the admin work yourself, the operations like you talked about. But then as you scale up, you need to reach this breaking point where it's working a muscle of how do I properly communicate the goals and objectives and build out the systems that other people can operate within, which in of itself, in my opinion, even if you're just breaking even, right? So hiring somebody as a part-time VA to support you, even if you're breaking even or losing a little bit of money, in my opinion, it's worth it because now you're exercising that new entry level, which is learning how to delegate and run teams.
True. Yeah, that's probably the biggest leap, right?
Yeah.
I think when you go from starting a business and you're like hustling, you're wearing all the hats and you're used to doing that, which is kind of what you do in a W-2 job as well, right? You have your role and you're the one who owns it. You can't really hire people to do your W-2 job for you. So it's a big leap to go from that mentality to, okay, I need to be okay with offloading these things that I feel like are really important to somebody else, knowing that it's probably going to take them a little bit of time to get up to speed, maybe 3-6 months, maybe 12 months to get up to where I want them to be. It's a whole different skill. And like you said, it really gets you out of your comfort zone to say, okay, I'm going to delegate and then I'm not going to micromanage. Nobody wants to be micromanaged. My focus is on creating a safe space for the employees to do a great job, to make mistakes, and then come back around and figure out, okay, how do we need to change the process to avoid that happening again, as opposed to coming down on them and saying, hey, you did this wrong. So it's a whole different skill set to learn how to manage people. And you need that skill set if you're ever going to get to a decent scale.
Did you create the team in the Philippines yourself, or was there like a third-party company that basically has it all set up and it's fairly turnkey?
We tried a variety of different ways. So it's like trial and error, kind of like we talked about. You just go and take action, and then you learn. You take some more action, and then you learn. We just put job postings out on onlinejobs.ph, and we got hundreds of respondents, right? And so then I had to narrow that down, and we hired our first person from that, and then they flaked out so quick because we didn't have anything in place for them. So we quickly realized, okay, we need to have a little bit clearer idea of what they're going to do. and then be able to get them involved and faster up and running. So we found another one, and she was great. And, it was like trial and error. There was, she ended up leaving for a personal reason, and then her cousin came in, and we had her for over a year. And then we did try to hire from a service, and the service was great. They helped us with our SOPs, like creating those and building those out, which is another good exercise. Hired them, and then we had to let her go after a while, not because of the company, but they were also taking a margin. And then we hired a team. So then we got smart. We said, okay, instead of hiring people and training them, why don't we hire somebody who's already worked at a company much larger than ours? And so that's when we started paying more. So the amount that we paid went up quite a bit, but the experience that she had coming in was way more. So she had worked at a company that had managed hundreds of properties, and she had personally managed 60 of those, and our company was at like 10. So we were like, okay, in the interview, what can you teach us? And they're teaching us, she's teaching us all these things about Slack and communication channels and Monday.com and project management software, stuff that we had no idea how to do. They now do all that for us. So it's cool to be, instead of me having to train somebody and take the lead on it all, I can say, okay, let's talk about the problem. What do you guys think the solution is? Okay, great, go do it. And they'll go execute on it. That's a huge change.
Yeah. What's the cost gap between those two types of individuals? So like the entry level that you have to train yourself versus the person that can come in and is seasoned.
So like our team lead is twice as much as what the regular team members are, and totally happy to pay that. But the difference between somebody who, like the other members of the team, are probably twice as much, I would say, as someone who is just raw coming in, doesn't really know what you're doing, and you have to train them. And just to give you the numbers, right? Like I would say normal for like full time in the Philippines, probably around between 500 and 1,000 per month, right? Is just like for someone coming in raw. For us, we're at 1,500 a month for those that have the experience that we're looking for, and then our team lead is about twice that much.
Nice.
So the great thing to your point is that I can hire a whole team for the cost of one person in the US, and that expands our ability to do a lot of different things, and it also expands my learning on how to manage a team.
Yeah.
Right. Very quickly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you scaled to the point where you could actually put this team in place to handle operations. You mentioned that you and Craig were able to step out into marketing. What does marketing to actually scale that business look like?
Yeah, so we didn't actually officially start marketing until a year ago. We quit our jobs. So I'm literally at the 1 year mark right now.
Congrats,
and the past
nice.
year, yeah, thanks, man. It's my anniversary. The past year has been sales and marketing. And that's really been the focus, because the entire real estate industry slowed down. The interest rates went up, and a lot of our leads were coming through referrals from realtors. And when the transaction volume goes down from the highest of the highs that it's ever been to the lowest of the lows that it's ever been, that means your volume and the compelling events that are going to get people to sign up for management are much fewer and far between. So we had to totally rethink how we were going to do it, create total new relationships with referral partners, started Google Ads. We're on a variety of different software platforms as vendors, right, that we've set up, that we're kind of trusted vendors now, so that we can be found and searchable in a variety of different ways. Upgraded the website, totally new website, and we're continuing to do those kind of upgrades. Paying for SEO, so we've upped the SEO game. So there's a lot of different avenues that we're going for all at the same time, and it's been a big learning experience once again.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when you set up the SEO and you're doing paid ads, what's the avatar that you're targeting? Is it people who are purchasing STRs? Is it people who are looking up how to manage it themselves? What are you looking for?
I mean, ideally, we're trying to catch people in the buying cycle, in the buying process, somebody that's already looking to make a switch. So we're trying to focus our SEO build on vacation rental property management, San Diego or Nashville or Phoenix. Those are the main areas we're in, but we're trying to be very focused in as opposed to being spread out. So San Diego is where we're focused, trying to get our keywords up. So when somebody's searching for that, we show up not just in organic search results, but also in the ad. And I think that me personally, when I Google something, I kind of skip past the ads, right? Yeah. But I see the ads, I see that they're there, and I recognize them, and I say, okay, these are the big players. And then if I see that name again down below, I'll be like, oh, okay. So not only are they in an ad up above, but they're high in the SEO search results. I'll probably click on them.
So
that's what we're trying to do.
To validate the list.
Exactly.
I like that.
And, I think people who are a bit less sophisticated with technology or the internet might just click on the first result because, oh, it popped up first. I'm going to click on it. So I think the ads still have a ton of value, but the organic search results, if you can get up to a high point organically, that will create leads at zero cost to you in the future. That's a huge value. So we focused a lot there.
Yeah.
Most of our business is coming through referrals, though. I don't want to downplay that. You can go with social media ads. You can pay for a lot of different things, but it's totally free to create good relationships with people. So we're constantly networking. We're cold calling realtors to make relationships with them and provide value right off the bat. And that's been one of the more successful things we've done.
So you manage some short-term rentals, but you mentioned that you also, prior to us recording, that you also have some things in your portfolio that are outside of short-term rentals. Are all the remaining long-term, or do you have any midterm in there?
No midterm. No, we do all vacation rentals and then those long-term that I have in Wisconsin. I would like to do more multifamily as well, even if it's smaller rural multifamily. It's just so solid. It's so steady. And I don't ever have to worry about seasonality fluctuation, recessions. It's just really steady.
Yeah. So are you continuing to look for long-term multifamily in those rural markets?
I have to, now that I have a 6-week-old, I have to limit, I have to be very specific. So right now, similar to you, we're excited about doing commercial hospitality. So my focus has been on looking for hotel assets to acquire. That's been the focus. For the time being, that will be the focus. We're pretty close to a deal that we're excited about there as well. So the progression, as you can see, from 2018 on that first fourplex to 2019, a 7-unit, and then 2021, several townhomes in Nashville and our prime area here in San Diego. It's amazing how anybody who's out there listening, no matter where you are in the process, if you just got your first place and you have a little fourplex in Wisconsin, or you don't have one yet, it's amazing how when you get started and get the first one under your belt, how fast it ratchets up from there.
So you've already kind of touched on it, but if somebody has nothing, let's say they heard this and they thought that's interesting, they have no money in the bank, no anything, and they want to get the ball rolling with managing and owning properties, what would you say are the first few steps that they should take?
In order for somebody to trust you to manage their property, you got to create a good relationship with them. So you got to think about what's the avatar I'm trying to talk to? Who are the type of people that have properties, that have vacation properties that I can manage for them? Where are they at? So I go to real estate meetups regularly all the time, and I have for years, even before we bought the first property. That's a great place to meet people that could be potential clients, potential mentors, potential partners. I've met all three at real estate groups that I've met: clients, mentors, and partners. So creating the relationships is going to lead to everything. You just don't know where it's going to go at the start. You don't, but you kind of just have to put yourself out there and create the relationship. Create the relationships and then try to provide value for no cost, right? Like if you don't have the expertise yourself, or the track record yourself, then go and do something for free for somebody else, and you will learn on their behalf. And they might even say, I'm trying to figure this out. I got a budget $500 a month for this. You take the lead on it. And then you'll learn a new skill on somebody else's dime because you're doing the work that they don't have the time for. For instance, this is kind of random, but I met a woman that did self-storage stuff, and I was interested in that at the time. And she was on a panel, and I loved what she was talking about. And I went up to her afterward, and I said, that was so cool. I loved what you were talking about. I don't have any experience in it. How can I help you out? And she was like, wow, that's, I have no idea, but let's try to find something. They ended up putting me on their Facebook group that had been stale for a long time, and I started to revive it. I became an admin. I started doing posts for them. I didn't know what I was doing, but I learned along the way, and I even put some of my money in to do some advertising. And she was like, you didn't have to do that. And I was like, that's what I'm doing, is I'm creating such a strong relationship by providing value to them that they would do anything for me after that to help me out, right? So that would be my advice, is go find somebody who's doing what you want to be doing, find a way to help them out, even if it's 30 minutes a day. you can do it.
Dude, I love that. That extra mile, that goes such a long way with, especially with people that you are trying to like prove something to in a sense, right? Where effectively you're engaging with them and you're looking for what they need and trying to deliver that value, but also searching for those extra things that they didn't even communicate that they needed that you can subsidize so that you actually do stand out. Because the higher up you go on the totem pole, like the more offers those people get. So I will never forget this. I reached out to Jesse Itzler.
Oh, let's go. I love him.
I shot him a message and I was like, hey, look, these are my qualifications, whatever. I'd love to like offer some free work, basically. And this is kind of actually like a plot twist against what we're talking about now. But he effectively came back and super kindly said, like, I'm not like looking for somebody to fill this gap.
Yeah.
Like, you're giving me a job when you tell me that you have a free offering. But if I had approached it as like, hey, look, this is something specific that I have that I'd like to offer you, or like even just giving him free work, right? So he mentioned later on that somebody had offered him, somebody who had like a screen printing business and they did hats and shirts and stuff, asked him for their logo to one of his businesses. And when he shared the logo, he just started shipping them like free hats and shirts. And the guy was like, and Jesse was like, oh, dude, this is like a no-brainer. Of course I'm going to go with you because you've been sending me stuff, you know? So like, looking for those nuggets of things that they're not even asking for, like you putting in your money with ads to say like, look, you didn't ask for me to put money into ads, but this is that extra cherry on top of, oh, I found a place to add value that you haven't even asked for. It's a no-lose situation as opposed to the alternative.
And what came back from that, it's amazing because they were like, you create the good relationship and then she's like, hey, I've got all this documentation from this whole course that I paid for and I have access to CoStar, which at the time I had no idea what it was. Now I know how valuable it is. But she was willing to give me a full coursework of information on self-storage that I was interested in and like give me access to CoStar, which I don't know, how much is that a year? Like 30 grand a year or something crazy. So I didn't ask for any of that, but she gave it to me because she didn't ask for what I gave her. So I think that's where you give first with no expectation of receiving, and especially those types of people will come back and they'll give you so much more than you ever would have expected because it's a win-win relationship. And anyone who's already made it or is farther along, nobody has ever said no to me if I'm like, hey, are you able to give me a little bit of help? Do you mind if I ask you a few questions? Everyone likes to help the people that are coming because they were there at one point. We've all been there at one point. And I'm happy to help people out as well.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. So what did scaling your portfolio look like for the properties that you did purchase?
Most of them, I was just taking the extra income that I was making W-2 and putting that into the properties, right? So it was like, okay, I have this much that I can invest. Let me go get the first one. And then I think after you get 3 or 4 years in, the returns on those properties have kind of paid off, should have paid off kind of what you initially put in. And now you're making extra. And that's where you can start to, once again, save whatever you're making, extra. You save that, live below your means, and then take whatever you're making there and go and invest it. And I think my business partner, Craig, does a better job than I do about it. He stacks it, and then 2 years later, he'll take the income from those and buy a few more, and then takes the income from those 4 and then buys 4 more, and then 4 to 8. So there's definitely an element of that. Quitting the W-2, now a lot of my income, my cash flow is just handling my day-to-day expenses. But that's what it took to, I'm taking a dip in income by dropping the W-2 in order to focus on what I love and then scale it all the way back up to an uncapped potential.
Nice. And do you ever refi and roll that in as well, or do you mostly just leverage the cash flow?
We have done a couple cash out refis, recently, and it was more to prepare for leaving the W-2 than anything else. But we're looking at taking some of that and investing it into the first hotel deal, which I'll keep you updated. We might have to do another session if and when that one closes.
Yeah, 100%. We'll have you back on. All right, so we always ask an interesting question at the end of the show, and we've changed up the question I was telling you before hopping on. What questions do you feel that someone entering this space should be asking?
Yeah, whatever space or whatever specialty you're interested in, the question you want to ask is, who is the person who's already where I want to be? Or who's the person that's 3 steps ahead of me? Maybe not, like if you're looking at it and saying, oh, I want to be Grant Cardone. That's going to be a difficult jump to get his attention or his time. I'm not saying you can't shoot for that, but try to find that person that's 3 or 4 or 5 steps ahead of you, and then make a relationship with them. Just like we talked about, how can I add value to them? They're not that far ahead of you where they're going to just totally ignore you. And then you add value to them. And next thing you know, you end up being partners, or they end up being a mentor, or they're an investor. But when you find that person who's doing what you want to do, go create a relationship, and you never know where it's going to go. But I'll bet it goes somewhere that, is good over time.
I love that. Matt, thank you so much for being on the show. It's super good having you.
Dude, super pumped to be here, man. Appreciate it.